Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to call the March 5th meeting of the Common Council to order. I will ask the clerk to call the roll to determine a quorum.
Alderperson Chaplesky.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
May.
Here.
Probst.
Here.
Reinke.
Here.
Rote.
Here.
Singstek.
Excused.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak.
Excused.
8 present, 2 excused.
We have a quorum. Alderman Chaplesky will lead us in the pledge. I'm going to ask that after that we have a moment of silence for the 2 young lives we lost in a fire in the city of West Allis over the weekend.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For those that had asked, we are working on extra copies of the agenda. They should be out on that back table shortly. We have 5 items up for public hearing this evening. I will ask the clerk to read item number 1. I'm sorry. We have 3 items up for public hearing this evening. And I'll still ask the clerk to read item number 1.
A hearing on the improvement of South 77th Street from West Arthur Avenue to West Beloit Road, South 78th Street from West Lincoln Avenue to West Arthur Avenue, South 79th Street from West Lincoln Avenue to West Arthur Avenue, South 80th Street from West Hayes Avenue to West Arthur Avenue, and South 81st Street from 300 feet south of West Lincoln Avenue to West Arthur Avenue.
Mr. Daniels?
Thank you. Okay, this is the public hearing for 77th, 78th, 79th, 80th, and 81st Street. The public hearing procedures are as follows. I'll go through the project scope and cost.
I'm sorry, Mr. Daniels, do you have your microphone on?
It's the new microphone. I don't know. Yes, it is.
How much should we pay for it? Okay.
Told me it would pick me up wherever I...
Okay.
So, project scope and cost, I'll go through that. Then I'll discuss assessment rates, methods of payment. Then we'll have comments and questions from the Common Council and citizens affected. And then the hearing will be closed and the project referred to the Board of Public Works, and we would expect a final decision later tonight by the Common Council. So here's the project limits for the 5 streets: 77th Street from Arthur to Beloit, 78th Street from Lincoln to Arthur, 79th Street from Lincoln to Arthur, 80th Street from Hayes to Arthur. This portion was done previously, a couple years ago. And 81st Street from a point mid-block to Arthur. This portion was done several years ago. So here's some pictures of 77th Street. The concrete pavement there is from 1954. That makes it 59 years old. The joints are severely deteriorated and patched. Lots of potholes that our crews have to fill on an annual basis. Here's some pictures from 78th Street. This pavement is asphalt. It's from 1965. That makes it 48 years old. Once again, it's broken into pieces about the size of my fist, and there are lots of potholes that have to be filled in. 79th Street, we have large sections that have been patched because the potholes were too numerous to be filled one by one. This pavement's from 1958. Makes it 55 years old, which really is an astounding long amount of time for an asphalt pavement to last. Typically, they'd be much less, if not half that. 80th Street, asphalt pavement's from 1965, so that's 48 years old. And then 81st Street, the asphalt pavement's from 1957, which makes it 56 years old. Routine maintenance, when it looks like this, is very difficult and expensive to send people out continuously to fill potholes. This is the typical finished project with new asphalt surface. and some curb and gutter repaired and sidewalk repaired as needed. So the project will include curb and gutter being repaired as needed, but the majority is in good condition and will remain. The old asphalt between the curbs would be entirely milled off, and the new asphalt surface would be placed. Now, on 77th Street, it's a concrete road, so there too we would mill some of the concrete down so that we could put the new asphalt surface over the top. There would be some minor repairs to underground utilities, and the sidewalk would be replaced as needed. We're not going to replace all of it, just the parts that are broken or cracked. The streets will be closed, and street parking would, if needed, would be provided from neighboring streets. No parking permits would be required. I am going to stagger the streets so that they're not all at the same time, so we do every other street, so there would be places to park in between. Here are the paving costs of the project, $760,000 for all streets combined. Just a minor amount of street lighting, fixing some wiring. Sanitary sewer, $777,000. Storm sewer, $48,500. Some minor water main work, $39,500. So the total cost of this project is $1,650,000. The assessment rate is $33.45 for residential and $41.82 for commercial per foot. And if anyone would have any driveway, although I think there was only one person that did, it would be $6.26 per square foot for the driveway replacement. The assessments altogether return $300,700, which is 39% of this top paving number. So here's a sample special assessment, assuming a lot width of 40 feet. The assessment rate would be $33.45 per foot. The homeowner's cost would be $1,338. Now the payment options, there are several payment options, but I want to point out first that the bills would not be mailed out until March of 2014. So at that point, you would have the option of a lump sum payment, a 5-year installment plan, or a 10-year installment plan. And if you were to choose the 10-year plan, the special assessments would range, assuming a 4% interest. From 2014, your first payment would be $187, and then your 10th year payment in 2023 would be $139. Now, the city has funded projects with special assessments for over 100 years. Any property that receives a unique benefit from the project has historically been assessed up to 100% of the cost. But as I pointed out before, the special assessments on this project are only accounting for 39% of the cost. This is a map of everyone on at least the south portion of the city of West Allis that has received a special assessment in the past 10 years. So any number of these people could be, or at this very moment, still paying off their special assessment. So you can see that almost everybody has paid a special assessment in the past 10 years. And if you were to go back 20 years, it would be nearly 100%. So that's how we operate in West Allis, is that everyone pays for the street in front of their house or the alley in front of their house. While we all use Lincoln Avenue or National Avenue, we don't pay for that directly. We pay for the street in front of our house, and while other people may use our street, they pay for their street, we pay for our street. So that's how we've typically done it for over 100 years. As far as the 4% interest, the city will borrow the funds for the paving portion of this project. So the city does have to pay interest to the municipal bondholders over the next 10 years. So what the city does is we pass along these interest charges to any resident that chooses a 5 or 10-year payment plan. The city does not make a profit off of the interest charged. At this point, if there's any comments or questions from the council, we can hear them now.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Just a quick announcement. The extra copies of the agendas are there if anybody was looking for one. In the public hearing, are there any questions or comments from the council on this item? Alderman Weigel?
Mr. Daniels, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. This will likely, if approved tonight or when it's ever approved, it will likely be a single contract to a single contractor?
Correct.
But you did say that you're going to alternate the contract, so ostensibly the even streets would be done first. And that was my concern, that if we stack up all these streets in the same area, the parking's going to be wiped out.
We'll do the evens and we'll do the odds.
So like the evens will be done first, and then the odds, so that'll help moderate that parking issue.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Probst.
Mr. Daniels, will the residents of those areas have access to the alleys that run behind their house during the construction period, so they'll be able to get in? All right?
They all come out to Hayes or Arthur, so, and there will be times when we can drive on the road as it's being worked on, but not the whole time. It should go relatively quick, but.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item? If you could sign in at the podium with the pink card, either before or after your comments, and then you can speak at the microphone, and we ask that you please state your name and address for our record.
So then what do I do?
Speak in the microphone right there, and just please give us your name and your address.
Okay, I'm Pamela Long, and I live at 2470 South 81st Street. And for me, I'm just objecting to it, only because my street looks fine, and right now we're in a stagnant economy, and I haven't received a raise from my employer in the last year. So what I would like to do is defer this maybe until we have a better economy or starting to grow and I start getting my raises and we start having a better economy to be able to afford this. So that's and I don't know, nothing seems so huge or so bad except maybe on that 77th Street. That didn't seem like a pothole could be just filled, especially on my street, 81st Street, so.
Okay, thank you.
That it?
That's it?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else with questions or comments?
My name is Dale Zettler. I live at 2344 South 78th. I'm just curious where the 4% interest comes from. It seems like the city should be able to get a better rate than that.
Well, we sell bonds. I'm not the finance guy. I guess he's here somewhere. We could talk to him afterwards, but that's typically what we pay our bondholders, I guess. That's what I've been told.
Okay. Well, it's just that interest is cheaper. I mean, I can borrow money against my house at 2.5.
Well, you're free to do that. You're free to do
No,
that,
but I mean, the city should be able to offer the citizens a better rate than 4%. That's my issue. But I'd just like to know where they came up with the 4%.
We can talk to the finance director in the hallway later.
Okay. And then my other question is we have a church on our block. Does the church get assessed?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ivan Barton, 2334 South 78th. I just have a couple questions. Our alley was done a couple years ago, a couple $100 on that. The alley's already buckling and cracking. That's my question. The alley on 77th Street is cement. We just drove through it on the way over. There are drains between each of the garages. Everything drains off just fine. Ours, they had to come back and re-put the drain in because it was in the wrong spot after they did the alley the first time. What's the lifespan of this paving job? From what I've seen around from some of the paving jobs, to me it looks like we're looking at 4 years and we're already filling potholes again. So
your particular alley was an exception,
Yeah.
unfortunately. There were some problems. It's hard to resurface an alley. We would expect that the street would last. We're going to go all the way down. We're going to take all the asphalt out. There's about 3 inches there. So you're going to get a whole new asphalt street, similar to what it was in 1958.
Right.
In the alley situation, we were trying to cover the old concrete, and I do remember that job. There were some problems. That was kind of an exception. The contractor didn't do a good job, but
what's the recourse on something like that? What if they don't do a good job? How is that kind of thing addressed by the city? Are there things built into the contract that if such and such doesn't meet this spec, then you have to come back out and do it for free or redo it, or?
We would come out and patch it again, yes. Yeah, I mean, I guarantee you won't be assessed again for at least 20 years.
All right.
So,
And then the last question I have is when you take it down, what's the grading that's done? I mean, is it just taken down one day and paved the next, or is it packed, hard packed down? You know, how do they set that for putting the cement or the asphalt?
They'll probably have to add some additional stone, and they'll grade it. Like I said, there's a little bit of sewer work, so they will have to dig down and do some sewer work, fill it up with stone.
So are they doing the full sewers, the storms?
I think they're just repairing some places that have got some cracks, and so it's not the whole thing, just certain spots that are. We send a TV camera through the sewer, so we know exactly where there's a problem. So I think we're just going to fix a few of those spots that should last, to make it last a lot longer.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Take the kids. Thank you.
Linda Kutka, 2400 South 78th Street. My house is on the corner of 78th and Hayes. Is any work going to be done on Hayes? I mean, I know it's not in the list, but I just thought.
We have no plans in the next 5 years, for sure. And I would doubt any time in the next 10 years. That,
okay, because it's concrete. It's pretty good. I was just wondering, you said about the front of the houses. I'm concerned about the side also. Are they going to recycle some of this asphalt or sidewalk or concrete that they're taking off to help save on funds?
Yes, I believe we do have up to 25% that's recycled. The machinery that would do that, I don't think they're going to have doing that on site, but the new asphalt that they bring will be made with some recycled material.
Okay.
Yes.
When you say the street is going to be closed, the alleys will be open, so those people who have garages on the alleys can park in their alleys and get in.
Yes.
But does that mean when the street's closed that everybody that isn't on the alley, like 78th, doesn't have an alley, will have to park someplace?
Yes.
They won't be able to get in the garages or anything?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
We'll try and minimize that. It's, you know, like I said, I think for part of the time you will be able to drive in. There'll be gravel down. You'll be able to drive in as long as your car isn't too low to the ground. But
would they do anything like that overnight? We could get in the night before, after work, but that morning not get out to go to work? Would anything happen that suddenly?
That would delay the whole process because they'd have to put a bunch of gravel in and get you in and then take it out every morning. And
so that won't happen?
It'd be faster just to get it over with.
Okay.
And that's what we'll try and do.
I have to admit that I was a little surprised that they were going to resurface 78th. 78th I thought was pretty good. It had those loose pieces of asphalt, and 77th, I agree, is much worse. I don't hardly drive on 77th. But on 78th, I thought, is there any way you can, like, tar it over to make those pieces of asphalt stick together? Because there really aren't holes on 78th.
This will last longer than something like that. We have tried stuff like that in the past, and we get a lot of complaints about how sticky it is, and so this will last longer, better dollars spent. It will last at least 20 years. And
okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leah Chapman, 2429 South 79th Street. And just a couple of questions. One was, the pictures of 79th Street both look like they're between Hayes and Lincoln. Because if you go from Hayes to Arthur, there's like one spot that looks like it may have had some damage, but neither of those pictures look representative of our street. Is it possible both of those pictures are representative of the other block?
It was all cracked from my recollection.
Okay, because my recollection, I mean, when I walk out my door, I clearly see something different than you see. My other question is about the timing of the project. As you know, we live right down from McCarty Park. This summer is very active. And now thinking that 78th Street will have to, find places to park, which is 79th, which, obviously I don't mind sharing. However, my concern is about the safety with the park and the number and the volume of traffic we get down our street as it is today, and the parking issue we have as it is today. I mean, again, I realize I bought a house by a park. I don't complain about it. I know that we have, parking, but my concern is the safety when we now have not only the park activity, but also the activity from our neighbors trying to find somewhere to park as well. So what would be the timing?
Well,
to avoid
it'd
this
be
issue?
July, August, September. The police do step up patrols because they know everyone's parking on the street.
I'm not concerned about police stepping up the patrol. I'm concerned about the kids on the street. I'm concerned about finding places for, for my neighbors. I'm fortunate I have a garage. I am concerned about the safety, and I'm not talking, we already have some safety issues at the park just for behavior. But with the added traffic, I'm not sure where putting an extra cop on the street is going to resolve the safety concern of high volume traffic with half of our streets out of not being available. Would you want your kids over there?
I actually used to live on 80th Street for 10 years, so.
Yeah, but that was
I'm very
before you were
familiar
doing the
with that area.
project.
I'm very familiar with that area, but it'll be a fairly short time that you won't be able to get into your driveway.
I didn't say I was worried about my driveway.
It's-
I wasn't worried about my driveway.
Yeah,
Don't have one.
Can I talk to you in the hallway? I'm not quite following the question, I guess. Maybe we can talk some more
Okay,
after.
I'm concerned about the safety of my neighbors and their children and the kids at the
Okay.
park with all the construction blocking the streets and having such the volume that'll be on my street or any given street when the rest of them are closed is gonna be a
I see.
concern.
Okay.
So that's, I guess, I don't like obviously I'm with some of the others who, I'm not in a position to be really comfortable with the extra cash at this point. I don't feel that my street's in really that bad of disrepair. I don't feel that those pictures are representative of my street. And I'm very concerned about the timing with the safety with our park and the kids right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tim Hurdle, 2423 South 78th. I just had two things tonight. One, I wanted to add my comments to some of the things that my neighbors have said, where I believe 78th is in pretty good shape. That picture that we had was maybe 3 or 4 feet. I know exactly where that is, but that really doesn't do justice to the 2 blocks that you have stationed to get re-asphalted. The second thing I had was, do you have any past data? You showed that map where all these other places got reassessed and from projects that were done on their streets. What was the average return on their projects as far as re-asphalting?
Well, I should explain that the $33 per foot is what everyone in the city pays. It makes no difference how expensive the project was, whether you live on Lincoln, whether you live on 78th Street, whether you live on a cul-de-sac, whether you live on National, you're going to pay $33 per foot. Everybody pays the same, everyone's treated the same, everyone pays their fair share the same. So the percentages go up and down, like in Lincoln Avenue, the percentage is real low because they're still only paying $33 per foot, but it's a much more expensive job. On your street, it's a much smaller street. It's a little bit higher percentage at 39%, but everyone is paying $33 per foot no matter where they live. So it doesn't matter what the bids are, doesn't matter how much traffic, doesn't matter how big it is or how wide it is. You're going to pay $33 per foot whether you live on 56th Street or 119th Street or 78th Street. That's the same.
Can you talk about then something that's comparable to maybe my block? If you just take a block and you say, in the past, we've, resurfaced this block. Have they gotten 39%? Has it been higher? Has it been lower?
Usually lower. It's usually 20 to 40%, I guess. If there's more commercial places, it's a little higher because commercial places pay a little bit more, a higher rate, $41 per foot.
Okay.
So it's always under 50%. It just varies from project to project.
Okay.
Because of the cost.
Because my only comment about that is, like I said before, 78th looks fine. And to get a 39% return on, you're asking us to pay $1,300. I can think of better things to do with $1,300 to my house to get a higher return on my money. So I just wanted to make that concern known. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Hello, my name's Colette Bien. I live at 2586 South 77th Street. We live right off, obviously, across from Rupina's. A lot of traffic is diverted off of 76th Street, by choosing to go on 77th Street versus 76th. So is there going to be any sort of strengthening of the asphalt that's used to help with that increased traffic flow? The street is obviously very bad right now. And you can see in the turns where, where it's taking the hit.
Well, it is a very old street. I mean, it's over 50 years, I think it was 56 years old. So that's beyond any wild imagination of how long we would want a street to last. So, but we're leaving that concrete there. So you got 7 inches of concrete now. We're putting another 3 inches on top. So now you're going to have a 10-inch street. So yes, it will be much thicker. So it certainly should be able to handle the cars coming that are diverted through.
Okay.
So it didn't deteriorate because of the traffic. I would guess it's mostly the weather, the Wisconsin weather, over 56 years. Freeze thaw. That's what does most of the damage to these streets. It's not so much the traffic. It's just the longevity and the weather.
So it'll essentially, you're reinforcing
You're
it.
going to have 10 inches of pavement there, which
Yeah,
is very thick.
My second question, I suppose, is about the hours of the demolition and construction. For those of us who have either early or late shifts, sleeping during the day, or whatever the various work shifts are, what is the plan for that?
They work 7 to 5 typically. They can't start before 7, according to ordinance. They may work a couple nights past 5, but for the most part, they're going to work from 7 to 5 every day.
Are they planning on doing all of the demolition on each block all in one day or something like that, so that we can plan for offsetting our sleep schedule?
Yeah, I mean, the first day when they come through this big machine to grind up the old pavement, that's going to be fairly loud. But the next week or so, they'll be pouring concrete, which isn't very loud, really. And then the day that they pave the new asphalt will be loud. So, I mean, there's going to be a few key days that are going to be loud, and the rest are not going to be very loud, really.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else with questions or comments on our first public hearing this evening?
I just got one question.
Let's hear it
John
first.
Jensen.
Thank you.
I live at 8029 West Hayes, and it's a corner lot. My question is, when somebody brought up if they might do Hayes in a short period of time, or whenever, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, will that property owner be charged for both sides? Say I pay for 81st Street, and let's just say, for some reason, you come down in 10 years and want to do Hayes. Do I get hit for paying Hayes also?
Corner lots do pay. The long side, though, you get 60% off. So you pay the full cost on the short side of your property.
Yes, I understand that part.
And then the long side, you would get 60% off. So you'd only be paying 40% of the typical assessment rate, of that $33 assessment rate.
All right, that was my question. I'd get hit for both.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have questions or comments?
Yeah, hi, Ron Strothman, 2524 South 77th, one of the worst roads out there, obviously. Question, you mentioned about bids. You said it doesn't matter what we pay, everyone pays 33 cents a foot, but I'm concerned about the whole bid itself, 1.65 million. How many bids did you get to come up with that price?
That's just an estimate. We won't go to bid until June. But the bids don't affect, you will pay $33 per foot no matter what the bids are.
Yeah, I know, but I'm concerned with what the city's paying. I already pay $4,000 a year in taxes, and I don't want that to go up as well.
We take the low bidder. We usually get 7 or 8 bids, and we take the low bidder, which actually state law requires that we must take the low bidder. So it's guaranteed to be the low bidder. Those are prices that we've gotten in past years. That's just how much it costs.
And what is the total time of the project?
Well, with the alternating streets, I'm estimating about 3 months, but each individual street about a month and a half.
Okay, that's it, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments under public hearing number 1 this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close public hearing number 1. And I will ask our clerk to read public hearing number 2.
A hearing on an ordinance to amend various section of the zoning chapter of the revised municipal code relative to establishing certain permitted and special uses and required conditions for commercial animal-related uses, including veterinary and small animal clinics, pet shops, animal shelters, kennels, and animal grooming facilities for the holding and care of animals within sections 12.40 sub 2 special uses of the central business district, 12.41 sub 1 and 2 permitted and special uses of the neighborhood commercial district, 12.42 sub 1 and 2 permitted and special uses of the community commercial district, and 12.43 sub 2 special uses of the regional commercial district.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This public hearing tonight concerns the city's pet ordinance. The Downtown Business Improvement District wanted to allow a pet store down there, and our ordinance did not allow it. So we reviewed our ordinance and we've modified the ordinance to allow that. And while we're at it, we're making some additional changes to comprehensively re-examine the ordinance. In the Downtown Business Improvement District, which is C1, there was not permitted any kind of a pet store. We're going to propose that they be permitted as a special use, which would require an additional public hearing. Now, we're going to also add 3 additional clauses to all the different special uses. That says one of them, they have to comply with section 7.12 of the city's health code, and that health code then regulates the kind of pets that can be sold, and more importantly, prohibits the sale of dangerous animals like poisonous snakes or alligators or something like that. And we will not be taking any action on this ordinance tonight as we wait for the health department to come back in to amend their ordinance to further clarify the prohibited uses. Also, in any of these zoning districts, outdoor runs for dog runs, et cetera, will be prohibited, except when we get to C4, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And no animal reproduction will be permitted in any of the zoning districts. In the C2 district, right now that does provide for pet shops and veterinary clinics, and we are proposing to allow them, again, as permitted uses, but have veterinary clinics and, more importantly, shelters and kennels as a special use. And that's the issue I'd like to suggest that the Alderman pay close attention to. In C3 and C4, we will make those permitted uses, and that's something that we may want to revisit. In the C3 district, as noted in the proposed ordinance, all the kennels and shelters would be permitted in C3. And then in C4 district, which is primarily the southern part of Highway 100 area, all those uses would be permitted, but then when we get to the outdoor runs would be permitted as a special use. So we may want to revisit those at a later date. The Plan Commission has reviewed these ordinance changes and has recommended approval, and we've received no objections to date. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Do we have any questions or comments from the council on this item?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman May.
John, a couple quick questions for you. Why in the C3 is it permitted but not a special use for the kenneling of dogs?
That's kind of what I was referring or alluding to, is that we're trying to limit the amount of special uses of i.e. public hearings. That's why the staff recommended to make it a permitted use. But I'm just suggesting you look at that very closely, because that's the biggest issue, I think, in this ordinance change. That if you change anything, you may want to look at that more closely. Because what we don't want to see is to have a zoning district that would be a zone C3, but all residential all around it, and then somebody want to put in a shelter or clinic or a kennel in there. And that's what you may not want to allow. So that's something that you may want to reconsider as we go forward on this issue.
Regarding kenneling, if a person takes a garage and converts it into an indoor kennel, but it has, windows open, things like that, would that be considered a indoor kennel, or what what constitutes indoor versus outdoor?
It would have to be totally enclosed with roof, walls, or windows to be an indoor kennel.
And so then an outdoor run, would that just be an area for the dogs to relieve themselves, or what would that?
Anytime there is open air involved in the area, that would be an open run area.
Okay. So if a person wanted to open a business in one of these areas and had to take the dogs out, if they didn't have an indoor facility, I guess, for the dogs to relieve themselves, would they be forced to then walk dogs around the neighborhood and pick up as they go?
Yes, I mean, they would not be allowed to have an outdoor run. So they could just release the animals into a run area and let them frolic. But that would not be permitted in some of the other zoning districts.
But to, again, relieve themselves, would that be considered outdoor running? If someone runs a kennel, they keep them inside, but they let them out for 5 minutes every couple of hours to relieve themselves, would that be considered a run, or would that?
They would have to take them out on a leash.
Okay. And physically carry them around the yard? Not carry them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other questions from the council?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Barzak.
Back to the original, the downtown area, and I heard you say that no poisonous snakes. Is there any limitations at all on snakes in the downtown area?
Right now, we probably prohibit some poisonous snakes, but we are creating a comprehensive list with the help of Chuck Wickens, the director of the zoo, and the Zoological Association, to make sure that we have a comprehensive treatment of animals that should not be pets, like alligators, for example, or whatever.
Yeah, which would have been my next question, because I know at the Plan Commission meeting, they talked about pythons, and pythons aren't poisonous, and the discussion was they could have a python, and I don't remember the footage, I think it was up to 12 feet, but you can't have one that's 12 and a half feet. And, you know, who's going to monitor and go measure the python of, is it a 12-foot or 12 and a half foot? So I had some problems with that part of it, of, you know, why do we want to allow snakes in the downtown area?
Actually, it's going to be in all zoning districts for pet shops, so it's going to be the same, but we're not going to regulate them in this ordinance. We will regulate them to the health department for a comprehensive listing of all animals that are legal to be sold in the city. So, and we have that issue. That's one of the reasons we're not recommending adopting it tonight, is that, like, at one point in time, we allowed these small little alligators. Well, how small is small and how big is big, like you're alluding to, and we need to come to a conclusion on that.
That was my next question, was alligators, because I know at one time in the past, somebody had alligators in the downtown area in their particular store, and I just think it's a little ridiculous, but that was my question. So that's all going to come back for discussion.
Yeah, and that's why we're holding adoption of this ordinance until the Common Council adopts the Chapter 7.12 of the Health Code.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on this item from the council? Are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item?
Hi, my name is Janine Markowski. I'm an Oconomowoc resident looking to open a business in West Allis, so I don't know if you want my home address or what you would like me to state.
Probably home address.
W346 South 3158 Holland Court in Oconomowoc.
You'll have a much easier address here in West Allis.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. My concern is we are looking at opening a kenneling business in West Allis, and as we were just told, it would not be allowed to have the runs. I think it's very unreasonable to have dogs and not allow them outside basically at all unless they're on leash. I can see you allowing only a certain amount of dogs at a time or maybe a certain period of time, but it's unreasonable to ask a business to operate. And me as a dog lover and an owner, I would not go to a business that wouldn't allow dogs to, you know, even be outside 5 minutes just to run around, get exercise, and go to the bathroom. I think it's very unreasonable to be putting dogs on a leash to let them go to the bathroom. If I understand correctly, in West Allis, a resident can get a special permit and have up to 4 dogs. And as far as I know, their dogs can be outside probably all day and running around. So I guess I'm a little confused and concerned as to how they're coming up with, not allowing that. Obviously, I just think that's very unreasonable. It's not like I'm opening an outdoor kennel and having dogs outside all day or having kennels built outside. It's literally an indoor thing, but it's just to let them out. And the entire property is fenced in with a 6-foot wood fence. We would be awesome neighbors, believe me. There's only one house next to us. Everything else is commercial surrounding the property. And again, I request that you reconsider the ruling on that and at least allow either X amount of dogs for X amount of time or what have you, but that would allow us to operate a business.
Where's the address you're looking at?
It's 9404 West Schlinger.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Vitale.
Yeah, once I start digesting this issue, John, regard the fact that myself, really, I don't like to be locked up all day, in a cage, really. I don't. In all fairness, I don't like it. So my question stands that the lady that she's wishing to come in West Allis to open up a business, our question is, if we put some guidelines, how many dogs she could let out at a time, of course with some type of fencing. So to me, it's better determinations for us to follow if we're going to allow them to operate in West Allis, in certain district, or zoning. So to me, it would be the next step to follow. But to say that the only way you can take the dog outside on a leash, just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but I would like to maybe that we address the questions, how many dogs they could let out at a time, to me would be more appropriate way to move on, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will close our second public hearing. And I will ask clerk to read public hearing number 3.
A hearing on the special use permit to establish a school, Victory Christian Academy, within the former St. Rita's School building located at 6021 West Lincoln Avenue.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the southwest corner of 60th and Lincoln is the former St. Rita's School and the current church. The school has been vacant for several years, and the purpose of this public hearing is to allow Victory Christian Academy to occupy the building. Because it's a school, it requires a special use, and that's the purpose of the hearing tonight. The enrollment is projected to be about 125 students. We've set a maximum ceiling of 200. The proposal to not have any busing, which the former school did, but have parents drop their children off, and that's one of the reasons for the maximum student enrollment, to make sure that we have adequate ingress and egress, and we're not tying up the whole street and intersection. And we think we should be able to accommodate that. The hours of operation will be a little bit before 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. most days, a little later on Wednesday and Saturday. The academy will be occupying the ground floor of the building of the old school, as well as the second and the first and second floors. This is an older historical area. Today's zoning would have required about 144 parking spaces. There are 113 are provided. In addition to this, we will be always looking at landscaping, trying to enhance our image in the city. The area between the street and the sidewalk, which is snow covered right now, is currently asphalt, and we're proposing to leave that as it is. But the other area, the 3 feet to 4 feet behind the sidewalk and the wall, would be converted to a grassy area. on the 61st Street side and a portion of 60th Street side. No additional landscaping required on Lincoln. Also, the dumpsters that are currently out there would be enclosed. We require that of all schools and all commercial businesses as well as this church school. And then also the parking lot, a couple of minor areas that will be greened up to be able to, at the end caps of the parking stalls, to help channelize the traffic that goes through there. The Plan Commission has reviewed this proposal, has recommended approval, and we've received only one objection to date, and that was based upon the old school when it was full. On 61st Street, the teachers would fill up the street and there wasn't any parking. That was the only objection we've received. If you have additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions or comments from the alderman on this item?
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Vince Vitale.
Yeah, I'm really familiar, of course, with the site. I belong to that parish. And there was a school there before, but 75% of the site of the St. Rita Parish and the old primary school, along with the school on Lincoln Avenue between 60th and 61st, there's already green areas. There is on 61st by the rectory, just going south, in front of the church on 61st, there's already some landscaping. The primary building already provide green area, on 61st just as well. So the Lincoln side does provide some green area already with the, of course, some landscaping just as well. The fact stands, I feel that 75% of the site already covers, I believe, the needs of the our occupancy or zoning ordinance really does. Over 75% does cover the needs of the site for the St. Rita Parish to move on to lease the site to the Victory Academy School. To me, I believe it's not a question of cost. I mean, there is some cost involved, but the way I see it, throughout the years, the maintenance people during the snow falls from the parking lot, by the time they go over the retaining wall, then with the salt and everything else, between the retaining wall and the sidewalk, really, it's been inconvenient because years ago, I remember about 35 years ago, there used to be grass there. There used to be grass, but the reason was taken out because, of course, the issue, upkeeping, but the fact was hard to maintain in a particular spot because people walk, the kids that used to be there. There used to be 400 children used to attend that school. So there used to be a lot of trafficking in regard to the questions of having more landscape. So the way I see it and the way it is, that site is over 75% of the site has green area. On 61st and on Lincoln Avenue and on Hayes from the called the driveway west to 61st has already some green areas. So we're just talking about between the sidewalk and the retaining wall. And to me, it's something maybe it could be done in the future if it's really that we have to move on with this. But at this point, I don't see really any reason for additional expenditures. If it was 50-50 issue here, well, then I would be in favor to pursue the questions of putting grass between the sidewalk and the retaining wall. But when we talk about 75% of the site already has green, I'm kind of objecting for us to incur an additional cost, to the parish or to the new tenants. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other questions from the council on this item?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Reinke.
I have a question regarding the type of school it is, the academy. Is it a charter school? What grades will be in the establishment?
It's a charter school. I believe it's a charter school. It's not a charter school. It's kindergarten to 8th grade.
I'm sorry?
Kindergarten to 8th grade.
I see.
Grade school.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, Are there questions or comments from the audience on this item?
Don Rogers, 2121 West Wisconsin Avenue, Board President of Victory Christian Academy. It's a voucher school and grades K4 through 8th grade.
Thank you.
Mayor, alderpersons. My name's Nathan Powers. I'm a leasing broker that's been helping Victory Christian Academy with their lease negotiations relative to the building at 60th and Lincoln. The only point I'd like to make is I'm here to discuss the landscaping. While we understand the city of West Allis' position as it relates to beautifying their green spaces and their commercial districts, in particular 60th and the Lincoln Avenues. And we recognize that the Plan Commission has offered 2 years, 1 year to submit plans and 1 year to go ahead with installing that landscaping requirement that they have. We just want to bring up the point that, you know, we're working with 2 nonprofits, one the church and one the school, and we'd appreciate any consideration we can to get as much time necessary to get that landscaping done. Again, we think it's a beautiful facility, and we understand that you know, a goal of West Allis is to, when these special use opportunities come along, to be able to beautify the streets and the corridors in order to create quality of life items for your residents. So we're happy, and we're encouraged to continue to move forward. We just would like to make note for consideration for as much time as we can to get those items taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience on this item?
Oops. Robert Brown, 2160 South 86th Street. For once, I'm in agreement with Vince. I'm glad to see a Christian school coming into the city of West Allis. Boy, I can't believe it. I think everybody knows I live near Central High School. I'm so sick of looking at boys and girls. I can't tell them apart. They got so many earrings in their eyes, noses, and sticking out of their head. And I can't even tell who's a boy and a girl anymore living near that school. So thank goodness a Christian school is being set up in West Allis. And I just thought for once I'd be happy to see something going on here, and I am happy. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will close public hearing number 3. And we will move on to item E on your agendas, citizen participation. This is an opportunity for residents to address the council on matters of interest to them. We ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we try to keep this to 30 minutes of our agenda this evening. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening?
Should I speak?
You're on.
All right. Violet Brown, 2160 South 86th Street. This is, I'm very disappointed. His name is Mr. Tony Staskonis. He's running for county supervisor in the 17th district. Anyway, 2008, we were out with pro-life people, and we wanted to go into the building that he was having a fundraiser for Mr. Obama, and he would not let us in. And he said, especially if Mr. Brown is out there with his group, he cannot come in to our fundraiser. And I was very disappointed because he did get an award at Mary Queen of Heaven, and that's a Catholic church. And as Catholics, we believe in no abortions. And so I was just trying to understand why he would do something like this. That's it.
Thank you.
Well, now comes the part that isn't so good.
We peaked early.
Yeah, I know, 5 minutes. Actually, I'm here representing the Southeastern Vigilante Group, the Christian Civil Liberties Union, and Stop the Violence. And I'd like to talk about Milwaukee things in West Allis as quick as I can get this 5 minutes in. The vigilantes were very active years ago, about 10 years ago, in removing people from running drug houses. We went there and took off the doors for the landlords, and we were very slow in replacing them. Most of them never got back on. The police came from Milwaukee and threatened to arrest me and everybody else. So sometimes, you know, the police, we can't always say the police is doing such a great job. They put a stop to a great activity. There's some videos yet of what we used to do out on the internet, whatnot. The other thing is Police Chief Flynn. I've discussed it with that man. He keeps running around with the married women. I was arrested for protesting. I wasn't even arrested. I was put in a squad car and I had a heart attack. Just recently, a man was protesting his activities. He's running around with women and the mayor. He got beat up by a cop. It was on a videotape. A lot of people seen it on the internet. The cop beat him into unconsciousness and kept pounding him in the head. What are they doing about that? Nothing, as usual. We support Sheriff Clark and what he's doing, but we do not support his having the elderly and everybody else take their shoes off when they walk into the courthouse. I'm down there every month. I can't bend down and put my shoes and stuff on. There were 75 people outside waiting in line to get in. It's a half-hour wait. I'd like to see one instance where someone pulled a gun out of their shoe in the courthouse. It doesn't happen. So everything everybody does is not perfect. I agree with my wife about Tony Stankotis. We were there. We didn't know anything about Obama much. He was just running. Where does he get off? This happened in West Allis. He rented a place on about 91st or somewhere near there on Greenfield Avenue. I was told I cannot enter the building. He's going to call the police on me. You know, what kind of a guy is this? He's going to run for county supervisor. I mean, he wants to take away the guns from everybody, supports homosexuals in the school. He wants to kill all the babies at the abortion clinic. But the worst thing is when he doesn't let everybody speak in a meeting. It was run by the Democratic Party, and everybody knows he's a big lefty, so he wouldn't let somebody like me in the building. Shame on him. Now running for county supervisor. I'm glad they're getting half pay there. That's all they deserve, if that. I've dealt with them. I've been in those rooms in the back and met with those people down there. We want to get into a little bit. West Allis Police a little bit. Very disappointed. A year and a half ago, I spoke about this before, when they supported letting the Nazi Party have a little place out here. Spent $175,000 to protect the Nazi Party. All I can say is shame on them. But we want to look at the police now. What are they doing in West Allis? People come to me with all these problems because of the agencies and what I'm doing. Recently, another guy, he's got a couple people in the house. The cops come in. The one guy's drunk on the floor. These people were drinking. The guy's wife is there, but he had punched this guy. And the guy he punched, they call the cops. Cops come in. The guy that got punched, the guy's hand's bleeding that punched him. The guy he punched has a plate in his head, and he can't see out of one eye. So he stands up to rub his eye. Police throw him on the floor. His arm lands underneath him. And they kept screaming like they do on these cop show. Put your hand behind you, put your hand behind you. He's trying to tell him there's a cop kneeling on him. He can't. The weight is too much for him to move his hand.
You have
so
1
another,
minute. You have 1 minute.
1 minute. Another cop jumps on him and breaks his ribs. He says right in the police report he used a knee strike. That means he jumped on him with his knee. Broke his ribs. What does West Allis do? They got a $1,000 fine for resisting arrest. You know, I get so tired of getting reports. Just recently, the homeless come to me, as they usually do. They're living on the streets. They go on this all-night laundromat. They're actually doing their laundry. They get tickets, the three of them. One for $1,500. They get, for trespassing, they had aluminum cans with them for probably picking them up from the street. And a guy's got a can opener. He's living under the bridge. He's right there tonight. He uses it to open cans for food. He got a $1,100 fine for that. 3 guys, fines over $1,000. They're living under the bridge tonight. And I just feel sorry for these guys being pursued by West Allis for these fines. There's nothing more to it. They're being harassed for the money. So on behalf of these guys, I wish something would get done. I wish someone would look into the police department. And actually, who's at fault? Let me just clarify this.
That's
I'm
time.
not blaming them so much. It's the district attorney, the city attorney, rather, from West Allis. The money-hungry prosecuting these people over nothing is shameful. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close citizen participation. We will move on to item F on your agendas. Our committees will be meeting during recess. The room numbers are on page 2. Item G, miscellaneous business, the mayor's report. As I mentioned earlier, and I'm sure you're all aware, it was a tough weekend in West Allis as we lost 2 young men to a house fire early Sunday morning. I do want to thank all the city departments that were involved in this. As you probably read, they were there in under 4 minutes, and I want to thank them as well as the police department and the Public Works Department for their help with the barricades, specifically the water department, and helping to get the basement pumped out as they were trying to determine the cause of that fire. All things considered, not a happy day, but they did a very good job. So I'll move on to some upbeat news. I want to congratulate 5 of our firefighters who just competed in the American Lung Cancer High-Rise Climb in Chicago. Our team of firefighters took first place, but not only did they take first place, it was their 3rd time in a row. Their closest competitors were only 3 seconds behind them. However, that was a Chicago team that was not wearing their gear. They were only in street clothes. So the next closest team wearing the turnout gear was over a minute behind them. So they did an excellent job there. I just want to give a quick reminder, this coming Saturday is the community dinner dance. The beneficiary this year is our Settlers Weekend. It is March 23rd at Clemmers. We still have a few tickets available. If you are interested, please call City Hall. Also, last week I got the opportunity to present at the career fair at West Allis Central on government service, and I'll be doing so this week at Nathan Hale. And I just want to give kudos to the chamber and the school district for putting this together. I know Alderman May spoke on engineering, and it's really a great program to expose these kids to all the various aspects of employment as they get set to graduate. And of course, lastly, I have to plug the St. Baldrick's event coming up again. We are now joined by Alderman May.
That's Balderman.
Alderman May. And currently have 8 people lined up to shave their heads. It is going to be done to raise money to fight childhood cancer. It's going to be the 4th year we're doing this event. We've currently raised about $2,200. Our goal is $5,000. It's going to be at Hoover School, and we are always looking for support in the form of your head or your checkbook to get grants. Last fall, the St. Baldrick's Foundation actually did give a grant, and it went right to Marshfield Clinic here in Wisconsin, so it's even nicer when this money comes home. That concludes the mayor's report. Are there any alderperson's comments this evening?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman May.
Real quick plug. Alderman Barzak and myself, we asked the DOT, we petitioned them to put off a meeting tomorrow, put on a meeting tomorrow for residents along 98th Street, along the west side, north of Greenfield. The meeting is to discuss property impacts due to the zoo interchange. We're hoping for a good turnout tomorrow. That is at St. Aloysius. If you're watching this on tape, tomorrow is March 20th. It's at St. Aloysius, Gonzaga Hall, 6:30 p.m. open house by the DOT, a 7 p.m. presentation, and question and answer to follow. And again, both Alderman Barzak and myself will be there. And then another plug quickly for the pancake breakfast being hosted by the Friends of La Follette Park. That'll be Saturday, March 30th from 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning, followed by an Easter egg hunt at 11 o'clock. I'm hoping that maybe I can serve breakfast, but I might be put on KP duty. We'll see. And lastly, go Marquette.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Devine.
Who was that? Alderman Probst, or Ranky, sorry.
Can I throw my voice? I have 2 quick announcements and then just a quick statement. The 2 announcements this week, On April 4th, Alderman Weigel and I will have our listening session here at City Hall in room 128. So Diane, write that down. We won't be at the library this time. Second, those of you interested in joining a few of us and looking forward and seeing West Allis move in a new direction, we're putting together a strategic planning committee. If you're interested in serving on that, please contact Mayor Devine at your convenience. And just to clear the record up, although he left, because I believe that if you're going to use facts and stand up here, you ought to make sure you hit them right. Tony Staskunas, our former assemblyman, had a 100% pro-life voting record, just to clear the air.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other alderpersons' comments this evening?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
Ms. Clerk, are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
There are no changes.
I would then move approval of the agenda as submitted.
Second.
There is a motion with a second by Alderman Reinke. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council regular meeting of March 5th, 2013.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman Probst. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I'll ask for a motion to place item 4 on file and refer 5 through 10 to the city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman May, second by Alderman Weigel. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Standing committee reports, we have none.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman Vitale. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in recess.